Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha Upashama Prakarana, section 89, giving insight into the state of enlightenment. Sage Vasistha continues, adopting the example of Sage Vitahabhya. That's the story he has been telling to Rama. And through that story, he has been giving insight into the goal of life. It's a goal around. The knower of the self is devoid of all desires, because all his desires are fulfilled in self-realization. All this, we go on reiterating it, and it's important to reiterate. It's called Gada Parinyaya. What you heard in one time, hear it again, your ears gives up little more muck. The more muck clears, better it goes. And a lot of muck is there, so hearing has to go on again and again. The goal of your life is to have Param Tripti. Param Tripti, Tripti means absolute fulfillment. Not to move towards the triad. Three represents, in dream you have three things, you see. Subject, object. Object, your whole world around you. And your experiences. Jnata, Jnaya and Jnana. And nowhere do you find absolute fulfillment. You go on dreaming, you see. In the world itself, your fulfillment is not in your body. Even if someone can give you a blessing and live for 180 years. Or someone who has to secure the world you live in will have no fight, nothing. It's very harmonious. And that will have children and grandchildren, and they will be always happy. Not a single one will have ever any headache. You will be bored. Then will not be Tripti. Tripti state is that when you don't have to run into these three directions. In dream you are running three directions. The waking state of you is on the bed. Following the same illustration, your Identified with body, your soul is experiencing three aspects: subject, the world of objects, an interacting experience of pleasure, pain, and all that. But in that world, there is no fulfillment. There is some desires come and you fulfill them, but they are not completely fulfilled. Soon you become thirstier than before. Krishna na jirna, vayameva jirna. Craving doesn't age. We go on aging. Craving, on the other hand, youthens, becomes younger. You are 90-year-old, but your craving is 16-year-old. So, how can there be tripti? Tripti means a fulfillment. So whatever tripti is there is a relative type of tripti, an illusion. The real tripti is called parama tripti, absolute fulfillment. Another way of description, using Sanskrit words, sankusha tripti, nirankusha tripti. Ankusha means spear. You are happy, and you move your head. Oh, I'm happy. Suddenly you see someone has a nail on your head. This is the ankush. It's ugly simile. But being allegorical, for a day or two you feel you have been fulfilled. What a wonderful thing. So much money has come in or whatever, and we are so happy. But soon you have another angle. Virus has come in the neighborhood. Can't even walk with your open mouth. So there is an ankush there. State of enlightenment, the goal of life, is not to have this type of fulfillment, the tripti, which is shaky and illusory. But param tripti, absolute fulfillment. And nirankush, no longer there is a condition behind it. And that's the state of enlightenment. And for a very clear understanding, in an unenlightened state, allegorically speaking, you are the sun's reflection in a jar of water. You are like a reflected sun. Enlightened state, you have full awareness that though you are reflecting in a jar, the real you is beyond all reflections, beyond all limitations. The real you has never been lost. Proof, reflected sun. Reflected sun should give the proof that the sun is always there. But due to illusion of the mind, instead of finding the proof of unshakable reality, all that you find is the shaking of the water. So in other words, I'm just giving a simple understanding of what ignorance has done, soul within you is absolutely the same as Brahman. Reflected sun has no reality in itself. It is nothing but Brahman. But the vision here is caught, limited by conditioned mind. Conditioned mind is like water shaking constantly. Even if it is clear, it is simply bringing a reflection. So it is in that state of understanding, not intellectual, perfect revelation, that's called self-realization. So you can well see the difference between unenlightened state, that's a reflected sun, enlightened state, the sun. The unenlightened is always shaking, will never be in perfect position. The enlightened knows no change, absolute. And that is the goal before you. But now you have to understand more details. Sage Vitahabhya retained his body until the exhaustion of his prarabdha karma. This point we have explained many times, that to become enlightened while you are in the body. And that enlightened state is the one that helps the whole world. Because people see these sages who are enlightened, they have darshan, they have communion, they are inspired by the examples they live by, sages live by. How long will that continue? That depends on prarabdha karma. How long a sage's body, personality will be visible to the world. And just to remind you, prarabdha operates in three ways. Ichha prarabdha, aniccha prarabdha, parecha prarabdha. Ichha, whatever you wish. Something happens, it is in harmony with how you wish. So it's ichha prarabdha. Certain karmas you don't know. Parecha, somebody puts you, buys you a ticket, puts you into a plane. It is all good, but you didn't design it. But your karma is led you that way. Anicca, you don't want viruses around. But suddenly, you get the shocking news. I'm just giving a gross simile. There are many negative things happen all the time with or without viruses. But no matter how things happen, life of a sage is always giving great lessons to people. It's like a living scripture. He radiated harmony and peace from his personality while alive. And even after death, the animals of the forest did not touch his body because it was charged with the elevating vibrations of goodwill towards all. This is given a very allegorical description. Though, even in the practical world, amazing miracles may happen through sages. If sages the ashram of the sages, violent animals become so tame. And animals also have their sentiments. Sometimes they have more memory than human beings without taking Chyawanprash. So, positive vibrations, whether alive or after death, naturally, the body of a sage, though dead, becomes a source of adoration, and so many go along with the dead body for his final ritual. And that's what is being explained. O Rama, when the mind is free of thoughts of violence, it is unable to induce violent thoughts in others. On the other hand, it converts even a violent mind into a peaceful mind. This point is very clear, very simple point of human mind. First you must understand, always radiates. If you are thinking of sorrowful thoughts, a radiation arises out of your brain, which is hurtful to you as well as hurtful to others. Sometimes you don't have to talk. You simply put your mouth swinging down. We're not doing anything. People around you, they shiver and shake. And when you have positive thoughts, there is joyousness. But here I'm giving illustration of ordinary state of mind that sometimes become happy, sometimes miserable. But the mind that has gained happiness out of divine movement and divine communion, that happiness has its radiation that has no limit. Your iPads do miracles. But the divine mind is more than your iPad. And that's a profound fact. Countless people are influenced in many ways. Some are influenced only superficially, but still on the path of virtue. Some are more deeply touched. Some are touched while the sage was alive. Some were not touched at all, but after the sage is dead, that someone suddenly gets involved with the teachings of the sage. Tulsidas is not here, but countless people are inspired by him again and again. Buddha is not here. So, try to understand all this point. While alive, naturally, there is an immense influence of sage's personality on people, and that the best thing that could happen to the world, best of the best, to have enlightened person inspiring humanity. And that has been also the story of the world. Again and again, inspiring personalities like Jesus, like Buddha, like Gandhi, like many other sages and saints have come and have kept the whole world in a totally directed towards a profound culture, a profound goal. And whenever we talk about even animals, behave wonderfully with sage. Go into next step of understanding animals. Anyone who is gripped by lower self is animal, pashu. Anyone who is gripped by pashas, 8 fetters, 8 is again just a number highlighting certain negative qualities. But let me enumerate those 8 points. Grina, contempt. Shanka, doubt. Bhaya, fear. Lajja, a kind of abnormal type of shyness. You begin to feel that it is shameful to go to an ashram. When your parents and other personalities in your house are dealing with wonderful business, a lot of money coming in, and going to the ashram. Shame. So that type of shame makes you pashu, animal. Bhaya, fear. Ninda or jugupsa, living a life with constantly finding faults with others and keeping your life busy talking about them from morning till night and going to sleep with expectation. What's going to be here tomorrow? Where is the criminal going? Cool. Always looking into your ancestry and finding out something and then showing to everybody, look, where do I come from? Sheel, adopting certain style of show, what's called fashionable style of life. And some people consider that as your progress. If you are not wearing your colors in a right way, you are considered wild. You don't know how to use your neckties. So all your progress is measured by your external style. And lastly, man. Man means always looking for being popular, to be recognized. So these 8 points make a person pashu, animal. And naturally animals dealing with animals. But in an ashram, these animals can't. And when the mind is free of thoughts of violence, it is unable to induce violence thoughts in others. On the other hand, it converts even a violent mind into a peaceful mind. The influence of the sage is not just to make good people gooder. I'm joking. Not speaking the right language. But it is important to understand that pursuing the path of enlightenment, your goodness is not just effective only with good people around. But it's effective even if you are placed in abrupt situations where all types of people, negative personalities, wicked personalities, terrorists may be around, and you may have to deal with them. But no matter how it is, through enlightened mind, souls are one with God. They are rays of God. And you are dealing with the soul. If you respect the soul, you understand then, to put it in a more simple way, if you are a medical doctor with a good heart and see someone suffering from a terrible disease, you hate the disease but not the patient. Be patient with the patient. Be compassionate. But your compassion should not be ineffective. See that the disease of the patient could be minimized, could be cured, could be prevented. So if you have that type of attitude, then your goodness shines bright. Otherwise, your goodness is just simple goodness, good among the good. And of course, this highlight of saints' glory. In all stories of saints and sages, you will find they encounter terrible personalities, and those personalities actually become very gentle, humble. But this high ideal, you don't have to wait to be recognized as a saint. You have to start in your daily life using that ideal according to your capacity. Every little step you take, instead of holding on grudge towards your near and dear ones, instead of allowing hatred, punishment, hammer to control them, if you could allow a divine art within your heart, you will be helping yourself as well as remedying your problem in a most profound way. But you remedy your problem by force and might. That is weakening you. And your problem may be solved before you, for your vanity-based ego. But the problem is never solved. It's become more bitter. So the role of violence and non-violence has to be understood in a very profound way. And that's the task for every aspirant, day and night. Failures are not to make you distressed. Failures are to make you understand. When the ant is biting you, you must know where it is biting. The failures are ant bites. Try to correct them. Even animals are affected by the elevated mind of a yogi. That's what I have been explaining to you. Overcome by divine influence of compassion and cosmic love, they give up their instinctive nature of violence in the presence of a sage. You can take it literally, the animals are influenced. Go it further, all those negative qualities that make a person animal. No matter how animal stage you may be, you are highly benefited by satsang. Those who inwardly harbor thoughts of attachment and hatred affect the minds of the wild animals negatively. Same thing is further elaborated. Raga dvesha, moha drishti. As long as your mind is striving to fulfill your raga and your dvesha, that's generally what human beings live for. Unless you have vivek, then you begin to go into what is really good for you, not what simply seems good. Think of the food, not what simply delights your tongue, but what is going to nourish you. So when you know exactly to go after what nourishes you, you are moving up, then that vision is free of moha. But when you are just going after whatever pleases your fancy, then that's called moha drishti, moha-based vision. And try to understand, when your vision becomes free of moha, free of raga dvesha, then what happens? You become sensitive in relation to the soul of the person. You become a source of doing real good to the person, no matter who the person is, where the person is. This doesn't mean that you take up your whole job in going after making people good. It is spontaneous. Whomsoever you are dealing with, by having a good-hearted state, always your mind concerned with the real good of the person, not just pleasing the person so that business can be successful. If you have that type of sensitivity, then you are on the right path. And this is topic of understanding the difference between moha drishti and jnana drishti. Moha-based vision versus jnana, wisdom-based vision. And that's a progressive movement. You don't become jnani at once, but gradually. But there's a big difference. Moha-based vision is the source of all troubles in family, for human being, for country, for all people, all societies. After the passage of time, the body of sage Vaitahavya, although unaffected by wild animals, attained a natural dissolution. His spirit, on the other hand, recovered its essential identity as Brahman. More details are being brought now in section 90. Sri Rama asked, O sage, how can virtues develop in a sage's mind, which has been negated by intuitional knowledge of Brahman? Now Rama is putting the question for the aspirants. When an aspirant hears, well, this is zero. I say, all right, thank God, everything's finished. So if you have that type of deluded understanding of liberation, the virtues have no place in your personality. In brief, you are not really attaining enlightenment. You are far from it. So, the idea of reaching a state of videha mukti, reaching a state of recognizing the entire world as false, that idea should not discourage you from developing virtuous qualities. Rather, that idea will not be successful if you are depriving yourself of virtuous qualities. As virtuous qualities develop, you become more and more qualified for attaining liberation, where all becomes zero. Shri Vasistha replied, O Rama, there are two types of chitta nash. First term we use, it is chitta that gives you liberation. But chitta that holds on to all the kleshas, ignorance, egoism, attachment, hatred, fear. As long as chitta holds on to those, that chitta is leading the soul to bhava-vyadhi, disease of the world process. And it is but the cure for this state of chitta that causes bhava-vyadhi, that leads the soul to the cycle of birth and death. When that chitta is remedied, remedy comes in two stages of the chitta. Both remedies are known by one name, nash. Nash is destruction. But destruction has two stages, sarupanash, arupanash. Chitta is still there, but it's not going to intensify. Think of a cloud that obstructed the sun. That's the example of the chitta that holds on to kleshas, afflictions. It has become opaque. Same chitta now comes to a state of losing opacity. When it has gone into purification, good samskaras are being developed into it. Now the chitta has become a cloud that has allowed rays of the sun to get into it. And gradually its opacity is being lost. Now the chitta is shining beyond its expectations. And in that shine, the cloud is not focused on retaining its own identity. It's melting away. But it's all a joyous movement. So that's a state when though the cloud appears, yet the sunlight is not being obstructed, rather glorified by the cloud. That's sarupanash. And the state where the cloud goes on dissolving and will not be there at all, that's arupanash. First, it retains the form. Second, form itself dissolves. So Vasistha explains, O Rama, there are two types of chitta nash. Sarup with form and arup without form. During the sarupa state of destruction, the chitta retains its form but is not tinged by attachment, hatred, egoism, or other impurities. It is like a crystal that reflects a color placed near it, but remains untouched by it. When your chitta has come to that state, it's not an impossible state. Everyone, you don't have to be a great yogi. In many situations, you are not colored. You hear kids fight, they hear, from their point of view, big things have happened. And you love the child, so you understand every point of it. You want to shed a little tear for the child. But all the problems of the child has not touched you at all, because you are not a kid. That's the example of certain degree of sarvupanash. So as sarvupanash progresses, you remain detached from the influence of different minds and different things that happen in the world. During the arupa state of destruction, the chitta merges in the self, just like the cloud merges in the sky, becomes the blue sky. The first occurs during Jivan Mukti, and the second during Videha Mukti, disembodied liberation. Again, the term Videha Mukti, listeners always take it very literally. Videha Mukti occurs in a state when your understanding of I am Brahman comes to the highest level. When you read the Bhumikas, steps of wisdom, in the fourth state, Sattva Apatti, one becomes enlightened. The enlightened state gradually matures. In enlightened state is compared to Jagrat. Now you have really been awakened. You've been sleeping in the world. Next step, now, it's called Asam Sakti. You live in the world, but remain completely untouched by you. It's like being in a dream and knowing it is a dream. Next state called Padartha Bhavana. The whole world of matter, world that seems coming into the range of your experience, all that is called in this context matter. All that matters to you. All that matter is absent, just like you have gone to deep sleep. But this is a description. Though you are in that state, in your life you may be doing amazing works without disturbing your internal slumber. If you have come to that level, then it's called Videha. That's why in Ramayana you have Sita's father called Videha. Many great sages were called Videha. And coming to very literal way to understand, all sages and saints will come one day to have no body. He dies from body point of view. So when body has gone, then masses use the term Videha. That sage has become Videha. But that's mass level of vision, that when body is gone, then it is Videha. Sensitive vision, whether body is there or not, if the sage has no identity with the body, not restricted, and that's his subjective experience, your sensitivity may reveal to you. Then that is called Videha. In Videha, there is arupanash of the mind. Like cloud has becomes so thin that it doesn't even appear to be there. A Jivan Mukta sees the chitta with insight into its illusory nature. And though seeing it, his vision of the self is ever unobstructed. Therefore, it is said that he has destroyed the chitta. In other words, he is not limited by his mental statement of his personality. Through your mind, what you think of yourself, that's what I call mental interpretation. When you are in deep sleep, you are not asking the mind, how am I? And you don't miss that. Mind being absent, you don't miss it. So when you have come to that state of dealing with your own mind, a deep understanding of being detached from your mental process, and a secure knowledge that all that mental process brings, they're not going to catch you. That will not make any difference with it. All that a pot full of water will catch about the sun, they have nothing to do with this. So when you have come to that state, Sarupanash has become perfect. So chitta is there, but it's absolutely not restricting you at all. This is called Sarupanash of the chitta, or destruction of the mind while its form remains. In the case of Videha Mukta, the chitta is utterly negated. Even its form is destroyed, and the self alone exists. A sage has no need for his individualized existence. This is called Arupanash of the chitta. At this stage, let me clarify certain points. People always hold that idea that the sage became Videha Mukta with a will to help people. So, he comes back into another embodiment. And he will keep his word. He will go on coming back until even a single person here remains in ignorance. Sounds very good. But there is stupidity behind the reasoning. Having attained enlightenment, he is no longer a personality. The question of his coming back means as if God doesn't, and godly source doesn't have any other individual. In other words, that question doesn't arise. He becomes Brahman. That's all that counts. And Brahman has no problem with coming back again and again. But as long as the chitta continues to exist without undergoing the destruction explained above, so long will it continue to give rise to the thorny forest of the world process. So you have three choices. Stay with the thorny forest, get through Sarupanash, end up with Arupanash. culminate, final Brahman. And with this we conclude. Om Ram 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 Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om Namah Shivaya Om. May all be blessed with Sanamati, right understanding that leads the soul, first blesses the soul with bhakti, shakti, bhakti, leading to mukti, liberation. Until you control and remedy mortality virus, you have not attained your goal. And may that becomes possible for all souls. May God be compassionate. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukmva Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyamamritat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Hari Om Tat Sat.